Most marketing teams approve content like this. They send out emails, they hope they actually receive the link, that the marketing material is actually in there, and then it's constant chatter with chats, with, hey, did you get this? And so on. It can be a serious mess, and most marketing teams do this on a daily basis. The worst part is that it takes an extremely long time for approvals and reviews to actually happen. Most of the time, those approvals never get done within that same week, which is a serious headache for marketing teams that want to move fast and move efficiently to get out more content and faster that they can test upon, they can keep using, and make iterations on based off the analytics that are presented. But here's the thing, I just built a full marketing approval system 100% on n8n that allows for fast communication, instant reviews, and also scheduled reviews that if there's anything out there pending review, it gets automatically fast-tracked to a decision maker or a reviewer to be reviewed and then approved or rejected or changed for any sort of edits. So here's the normal workflow for a marketing team that isn't using a marketing approval system. Content gets created, somebody gets a message either through email or Slack or whatever it may be, maybe Google Chat, and they're just asked to review it. No sort of context on who actually submitted it for review, no context on what needs to actually be reviewed or what the description of the item that needs to be reviewed is. Approvals get delayed, launches get skipped or slip through the cracks and get pushed back, and ultimately it just creates a lot of unnecessary headaches for marketing teams across the board. And unfortunately, this has nothing to do with the people involved. It's just mostly the system that works best when timing is not accurate and reviewers actually don't ever get what they want out of the editing sequence. So I knew that I couldn't fix people actually running this system, but what I could fix is the actual system. So this marketing approval system utilizes 3 different workflows within n8n. The first one is literally just receiving a submission form from Google Forms. Number 2 is it utilizes a webhook and a handle that basically accepts approvals or rejections from the reviewer and basically acknowledges the fact that this piece of material has actually been approved, rejected, or it needs to be changed or edited in some way. And then finally is a marketing approval system part 3 that runs on a schedule trigger to show any pending reviews get updated and reminded back to that reviewer to, hey, there's pending reviews out here, go back and review them and submit them for approvals, rejections, or changes if need be. All of this is happening with a direct connection to Slack, to Airtable that handles all the different data points, and then also gets sent directly through the approval system with set nodes and webhooks that run in tandem. Hey there, before I get into super in-depth on this one automation and workflow system, I wanted to let you know that you are in a unique position to receive free consulting from my business, Proverb AI Consulting. And right now you can go on my website and get a free AI readiness review done that a lot of businesses spend $5,000 to almost $8,000 actually getting through a consulting service. But now you can get it instantly and you can get it 100% free. So if you want to figure out if your business, your department or team is ready for AI, click the link in my bio or description, go to that website, go to AI Readiness Review, and get your free readiness review today. All right, let's get back to the action. All right, so I'm gonna start with part 1 of this piece of automation, which is probably the most substantial and really just kicks everything off. And the way it starts is it receives a submission from a Google form. Now, if you are Google integrated with your business, this might be the most efficient way to actually get information to reviewers, especially if you're using any sort of Google Drive links, or if you have Google integration with Google, Google Mail or Gmail, and can easily pass folders or documents or even images, videos, that kind of thing through Google Drive and the Google integration system. However, this isn't necessary 100%. You can still have a Google account form submission without it, but this really cleans it up to where I'm only utilizing Google Forms, I'm utilizing Airtable, and I'm utilizing Slack, which are all systems that get used quite regularly within businesses. So to kick it all off, we have a review submission webhook, listening to the Google form that will be filled out by the person submitting a piece of material to be reviewed by a reviewer or decision maker within the marketing team. All right, so currently, as you can see, I'm in a Google form. And right now, this Google form is titled Marketing Tasks, Jira Automations Marketing. Now, I whipped this up super quick in one of these dummy accounts. And really, this is just all the information that I'll need for getting and reviewing any sort of marketing content. For instance, the title, right? Which would be something like email campaigns. And then content type would be email campaign, my name, Jackson Rose, email, blah, blah, we'll just type in a dummy account. And then a media URL, the description of what the actual URL or media is, and then the priority level, or one of these right here. So I'll go ahead and submit that for intake. So how is that actual Google form being connected to the webhook in n8n? Well, it's pretty simple, but basically it's using an app script in Google that is titled Marketing Approval System. Now, basically what this does is that it executes on a form submit. After I've submitted this Google form to be reviewed, it then sends a webhook URL package to the n8n automation. And as you can see, it sends different data like title, content type, basically all the stuff that was already in that Google form. It's making sure that it's shipping all of that to the webhook. And the webhook's constantly listening. And there's one caveat to that, and I'm going to show you in the next step. So if you remember correctly, I am looking at the n8n Marketing Approval System Part 1 of the workflow. And we were just looking at the app script that basically gives that package to the webhook in n8n to then be put through the workflow. Well, there's one specific caveat that I want to talk about, and this is how it makes it active, at least from the webhook standpoint. Now, the webhook, once it's published in the workflow, which it is right up here, it is constantly listening from any actions coming from that script. So it's listening all the time to see if that package has been complete on the form submission. And that's how that Google form is connected to the n8n workflow through the webhook. So I'm just going to quickly break down this part 1 and then we'll move on to part 2. But it's going to receive a submission from the Google form submit. Then it's going to normalize submission pieces like title, content URL, submitter email, those kind of things in the package. And then ultimately it's going to save that record in a Airtable with all these different fields. So once that submission is created, it will save it to an actual table in Airtable. Then it builds decision links. So in the next step, I'm going to show you what the Slack piece looks like, but you can picture it just as a Slack notification being sent that has buttons. And the buttons either say approve, reject, or change what's actually happening in that media and whether or not that reviewed document has been approved, rejected, or changed. And then ultimately, it's going to submit the response to another webhook in part 2. All right, so I'm back in that Google form, and I just want to show you with all the information that I have put out there, exactly what's going to be submitted and what it looks like. So basically, I just am using a old YouTube short that I posted, but the content title is Social Media May 2nd, 2026. Content type, social media, my name, the email that I'm sending it from, the media URL or what the actual thing that needs to be reviewed is, and then a brief description of what the actual video is about. So I'm going to submit that. Okay, your response has been recorded, and then we'll go back over to the workflow to see what's actually happening in part 1. So as you can see, April 14th, it's been successfully created and the workflow has succeeded in its execution. So if we go over to Slack in my content approval file, you can see that I have these content approvals ready to go. So it says social media May 2nd, 2026, submitted by me, priority normal, type social media, and then I have the link to the actual social media, and I can approve, request changes, or reject. So I've already reviewed it. I know that it's good to go. It looks good. It's right here. Cool. I see the link. That's great. And then I'm going to ultimately approve it. Okay, so I get a little message here that says your decision has been recorded. The Airtable record and Slack status has been updated. Perfect. So I know that it's been approved, and I know that the record in Airtable and a record in Slack has been updated to let everybody know, hey, this piece of material has actually been submitted and approved. Great. The record got updated in Airtable, so everybody's in good communication and everybody knows what's going on. All right, and then another thing I wanted to show you quick is once that review has actually been created and handled, you can see that I received a notification from that webhook saying review decision recorded. Perfect. The title, status approved. It got a date and time of when it actually was approved, and then all this other stuff, and then I can review it. But in essence, this just shows that the record is kept and that everybody's in accordance. Hey, this piece of material has actually been approved and we don't have to worry about it anymore. It just has to be posted. All right, so I'm back in n8n and I'm looking at the approval system part 2, which is handling the decision between either approved, changed, or rejected, right? And I chose to approve it. So I'm gonna look at executions, and it should say succeeded. Okay, perfect. It says succeeded. This is the kind of information that it has, and I'm gonna go through it to show you exactly what's going on in the back end. But the first thing it's gonna do is it's gonna listen to that approved link. Okay, perfect, it got that approved link. It also has all the detailed explanations of what actually got approved. So it's carrying all that data from the approvals and from that previous record in Airtable, so that everything about that piece of information got removed and traveled through the workflow to be updated, be in sync with what's happening with Airtable. So as you can see, the output says approved, Jackson Rose, timestamp, approved, status, and the emoji as well. So it's gonna look up that Airtable record. Okay, we got this record of when it was created, all the information that has to go along with it. And then it's going to update the status of the Airtable record from pending review to the status approved, which is awesome. Okay, that worked. And then, like I said, that Slack notification that we just looked at, the record is kept. That instance of that node has been fired and successful. And then I got that decision confirmation page, which said this was confirmed. We're all good on our end. And then I also wanted to show you this marketing approval system just so you can see what the actual data table and the organization of it. So it's keeping things like submission ID, record ID, the name of the actual title of what's being pushed out for review, temp type, submitter email, and then things like the reviewer name, the reviewer email, and then things like the content URL, the description of it, priority, things like that, and the status, which is probably one of the most important pieces of this automation. All right, and then this moves us to our final piece of the marketing approval system, which is the schedule trigger that triggers on a daily or weekly basis, depending on how you want to have it set up. I'm gonna automatically execute this to create a list in Slack and sending a reminder that there is still pending reviews out there for projects. So the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna execute this workflow. The next thing it's going to do is going to find outstanding reviews based off the Airtable, and then it's going to ultimately send out that reminder in Slack to reviewers or decision makers, so that saying, hey, these have been outstanding for quite a while, they're still pending review. If you haven't reviewed them yet, please review them, and so on. So I'm going to execute it. It's going to go out there and find outstanding reviews. So there's 3 items. Build a review reminder links so they have approvals, rejections, and then change URL buttons, and then send out the reminder in Slack so that it can be reviewed. So I'm back in Slack, and as you can see, there's JR Automation's marketing app, says pending review reminder. Pending review has the buttons, perfect, it has the reviewer, and it has the priority, which is all high. So this is all very important. It's awesome that this just keeps updating on a scheduled basis to make sure that we're all in accordance on what needs to be reviewed, what needs to be edited, and what has been rejected for review. So everything's in. So this is just a perfect example of how automation, n8n, and just systems in general can keep everybody on the same page and keep communication high and keep workflows moving smoothly, especially when marketing teams are just slammed with different reviews, slammed with different content creations, and moving extremely high paced and fast. Because what happens in a business with marketing is that, things happen very quickly. And when you're constantly iterating new content, new creatives, working with platforms on social media, paid social, so ads, sending out effective emails, and then building blog posts, all these need to be reviewed for quality assurance to make sure they align with brand voice, tone, and everything associated with a brand so that everybody knows what's going on, but also the marketing team is working effectively, and speed always is a crucial factor of that. So if you think that this marketing approval system can work for your team, please reach out to me, go to proverbaiconsulting.com, or just keep following my YouTube channel. I come out with YouTube videos every week that help businesses with real world problems to help either grow or have their department, team, or business work more efficiently with n8n automations, AI agents, and AI automations that move the needle. Thank you for watching. Please like, subscribe, and set notifications to JR Automation's YouTube channel, and I will see you next week. Thanks, everybody.